Good morning. For my US colleagues, you've seen this talk at the Seattle meeting, so you can take a nap for the next 10 minutes. For my Indian colleagues, I just wanted to give you an overview of where we are with Mesobob, and then Emily will quickly follow me to tell us about the 2018 cruise. We will have a discussion on the 2019 cruise tomorrow, so I think that will be very interesting. In this program, there are a number of countries involved. There are a number of US institutions. We have collaborations with India and also with Sri Lanka, Seychelles, Maldives, etc. There are various programs mentioned here. Mesobob is the one that most of us are involved with, but it's also jointly with the NRL program that Hemanta leads called Rio Meso. And of course, the Indian counterpart program, OM. There are also folks from NARA here, so they'll talk about NARA's plans. The objectives are to understand the ocean influence on the intensity and propagation of the northward propagating meso signal that Eric talked about this morning, and to determine how the large-scale upper ocean variability in the Bay of Bengal, which includes the salinity-driven mixed layers in the north and deeper mixed layers in the south, influences the meso signal, and evaluating how the oceanic perturbations affect, or the submesoscale and mesoscale perturbations affect the upper ocean background state, and use both data and models to determine at what time scales and space scales the atmosphere and oceans are coupled. So we saw a hint of that at the strong diurnal coupling between atmosphere and ocean in the Pacific. In the previous talk, we'd like to know the same for Bay of Bengal. So this has an interesting history. Scott's there in our 2011 visit to India when we were just getting started. There are clearly interest within India to do, at the time, to do capacity building in science with modern oceanographic instrumentation and also with extreme weather predictions. So there are common interests with the US in that as well. As a result of that, there was a year-long mooring which was put at 18 North by Woods Hole. And there are already some publications out of that are coming through. There's one recent paper in Journal of Climate that you should look up if you haven't seen it. This plot from Weller et al. 2016, which I think Jared made, shows that all products have large biases. And there were some very interesting comparisons that were done with the BD mooring, so that could lead to sort of fixing some of the errors that are coming in from the electronics here in the BD moorings. So this led to improved flux measurements from the OmniBuoy data, and I'm working with Josie on that, and also Tom. There were some very interesting results in a series regarding these subsurface patches where strong amounts of heat would be trapped. Here is a striking example from one of Drew's wirewalkers, which is tracking this. The cyclonic eddy here, showing very, very shallow layers with strong temperature and salinity contrast. And the trapped heat has important implications for severe weather. It turns out that a few cyclones are enough to mix the Bay of Bengal, and so the Bay of Bengal we found to be very quiescent below the shallow surface layers. So this is a plot from Sally Warner's paper in TOS. If you haven't seen it, there's a lot more there, and so I'd encourage you to read that paper. Then we transitioned on to we've transitioned on to interseasonal variability in the monsoons, and you will hear a lot more throughout the day on that. So here's an interesting plot that Debasis has shown us several times now. Which shows that in a normal year versus a drought year, you have sort of much longer break cycles. So there is precipitation happening, but these anomalies are they last for a long time, and so this here the June, July, August, September average is lower compared to the normal year here. These blue periods are active periods followed by these red periods, which are break periods. You've heard about this 30 to 40 day mode in Eric's talk, and so we are interested in how the meso propagates northward in this 30 to 40 day mode, And we know from the previous couple of talks that the low-level convergence of moisture and SST gradients play a key role. I won't go through the mechanisms because I think you've seen some hints of that in Eric's talk and Simon's talk, but we can talk about this more during the beer time. The main message I wanted to send here was that we need these both atmosphere and ocean models to be coupled. And it is when there is coupling, that is when we get the right phase relationship. You saw in Eric's talk that a number of, there's only a few models that actually are able to get the strength and the propagation speed correctly for these meso. Given that we have a program, MesoBob, which includes ocean observations, so there's going to be an in-course mooring, which will go into the water at 18 North for about a year. There are long-time glider observations with Sri Lanka, and then there are US and Indian cruises. There was an Indian cruise last year as well. There'll be atmospheric observations. Last year, we were very lucky that we also had some C-130 flights from Sri Lanka. And we'll have intensive flux and boundary layer observations on the cruises. There's a modeling component to it, and you will hear about that. So I'm sorry that I couldn't present my science here, so I'll present some of the science that we're doing with Sanjeev during the discussion time. And then Jared will, of course, give a talk based on some of the work that he's been doing with me. We would like to get an improved process understanding of mesos. And so there are a whole range of models that you will hear about today and tomorrow. There's one of the very interesting things about this is the scientific exchange going on. So here is a snapshot of what was on the board by all the groups yesterday, and groups working hard yesterday when I arrived. There have been 3 formal summer and winter training workshops. The 4th one happened yesterday. There are many individual training activities that have been happening. Today is the 11th time we are meeting, in case you've been keeping track. So it's been really wonderful to be part of this scientific exchange, as well as technical exchange. We've had collaboration across both US and Indian vessels. Indian scientists have come on US vessels and vice versa. Lagrangian float training, glider training, etc. And now the in-course, we're looking forward to the in-course flux going into the water and getting measurements from there. There's been training of a new cadre of US scientists. So young US scientists have been trained now in tropical meteorology and oceanography as well. This is just to show that we are making good progress. So I mentioned the TOS issue earlier, but there's a number of papers that have appeared. And I think it's time that we should start making a list of all the papers that we've published and are in the pipeline, because there are many of them, and I think we should keep track of them. I wanted to remind you that the deep sea research issue papers are now due. So Arnold Gordon, who couldn't be here, asked me to remind you that you should submit your papers now. The deadline is March 1st. And I'm one of the people who would be requesting an extension. But please, please make sure that you submit your papers as soon as possible. Emily and I, yes, 1 minute, 23 seconds. Emily and I are part of a synthesis, an Indian Ocean synthesis review paper. So what we'd like, there was a very nice review paper written on the Indian Ocean circulation by Fritz Schott and collaborators in 2009. And we'd like to update that based on all the Indian Ocean work that has happened in the last 10 years in the Indian Ocean circulation, so that certainly there was a lot of work done with ASIRI and OHM and MesoBob, etc., but also Bobble and some of the other programs which Australia has, etc. So we are part of this, and please talk to us if you'd like to be part of this synthesis review paper. Gad Levy sent us an email about the first International Operational Satellite Oceanography Symposium, and there'll be a flyer about that outside, so please have a look at that. All right, thank you. 29 seconds to go.